All right, everybody, welcome. It's another edition of the Boone Show on My Pulse Radio. Glad to be with you, and we've got a great show planned as always. I don't know if they ever turn out great, but we have a great show planned. So we'll see what happens. I'm John Boone, along with the boss lady, Holly Harrell.
Hey, good evening. This is how many weeks in a row we've done this? Five, and this
but
very
we're off
abnormal.
next week.
Right, because of Thanksgiving, of course.
Yeah, so it's been quite the streak.
It has.
And then we'll have two
guess.
more after Christmas. I mean, after Thanksgiving, before Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then we take a little bit.
That's right. Got
to do
That's
that.
right.
Danica's here. Say hi, Danica.
Hi.
All right. She's pushing a few buttons here and there. And always pushing my buttons in class, but that's beside the point. But our special guest tonight is the Executive Director of the AnMed Foundation, Mr. Tim Self. Welcome to the show.
So glad to be here.
Yes, I'm
Always
so glad to have
entertaining.
you.
Well, we'll see.
I've heard for a while we need to get you on. And last week when I was saying, he's coming on next week, Holly, and she goes, "Oh, that's great. He's crazy."
He is. You just never know what's going to come out of Tim's mouth, ever.
At our house, my son's not that far of a chip off the block, and we say motorcycle brain with bicycle brakes. So get ready.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
that's
getting a little ahead.
True statement.
Yeah. Okay. So, Tim, let's get going. Let's talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up and how you got where you are now.
Yeah. So I grew up in a little small town in East Tennessee called Greenback. And Greenback's about the size of Ivor, and its distance from Knoxville is about the same distance. And one school, K through 12, in one town. We've got one flashing light, a drugstore with one of those hot counters that you can get hamburgers and everything else. And every time I go back to Tennessee, I go have breakfast with my mom there, so that's a lot of fun. I've been here now 10 years, which is remarkable. I never really had intention of leaving. I was at the University of Tennessee Medical Center working in the development department, and we had a consultant in common that had been working with AnMed and said they're looking for a new executive director of the foundation, and I think it'd be great. We came over. He told me that it was near Clemson University. And you still came. Well, I didn't know where it is because I'm an SEC guy where it just means more, and most of us didn't know where Clemson was back then, and so we came over. Fell
It's
in love
orange.
with the
It's
town.
all the same.
Yeah.
Well,
Tennessee.
my Clemson buddies are quick to tell me that it's the wrong color.
Well,
orange.
it is.
It's the wrong color orange.
I agree.
So I do cheer for the Tigers, but I reserve my orange for Tennessee and wear purple. So when I've been at tailgates, you look back at pictures.
I'm trying to think,
I'm
Tim.
always in purple.
I'm trying to think.
Yes.
I have some pictures.
Yep.
So I'll have to go back and check it out.
Yep. So came over and working with the foundation now for 10 years. We've done a lot of good things. I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And also a lot more to do is just this is a growing area. And as access demands for health care with people, no one likes to wait for anything these days. And so AnMed's expanding to meet what that need is in the region.
Yeah, see, AnMed's popping up all over the place.
They are. We just have one right down the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's what, an emergency center? Or whatever? Yeah.
Full emergency center, which is perfect. We don't have one in the area, so
You do now.
Now we
You
do.
Now you
That thing
do.
went up
Now
in a
we do.
hurry,
And
too.
there's imaging, lab
Yep.
services.
Yep.
There's physical therapy and primary care. So if you don't have a doctor, I assure you they are taking new patients. So if you're tired of waiting and can't get in, give them a call.
All right, so
Easy access.
we'll get back to, as you mentioned, the AnMed Foundation, but tell us about your family a little bit.
So I'm married to my wife, Elizabeth. We went to high school together, 22 years. We did not date in high school.
Oh.
Now, I know I pursued in high school, and she laughs about it because, here I was. I was a catch. I was a scout. I was an ROTC member. I was class president. I had braces, so I was going to have straight teeth.
Yeah, all those
He
just
was
check all the
everything.
boxes.
And she
Yes.
wanted nothing to do with me.
What is
nothing.
wrong with her?
And so the summer after we graduated, she gave me a shot. And so we dated about 6 years and been married now 22 years. We have two great children. I'm especially fond of them. 13-year-old Ramsey, that's an 8th grader at McCants Middle School, and Creed is a 5th grader at Concord Elementary School.
Very involved in Scouts, both of your children.
We are. We've Ramsey is, as you know, the Scouting America, which was formerly the Boy Scouts of America. They became, they integrated genders, and now there's girl troops and boy troops. And so she's a Star Scout and working diligently on that Eagle Scout, which hopefully we'll see in the next couple of years. And Creed this is his 6 years of Cub Scout, so he's an AOL, Arrow of Light, and he's going to cross over. And when they go over to the Scouts, they become Scout-led or boy-led or youth-led, which means Daddy's got to let baby bird out of the nest.
Because you're very involved in it.
Well, I'm a crybaby, so when he crosses over, it's going to be something. I'll tell you that.
That's pretty cool, though. You had a couple of stories from your Scout leadership.
Oh, yeah.
I know one of them's the old good Girl Scout cookie sales story, which they're always good.
Oh, yeah.
But talk about when you just got into Scouts and you weren't sure you were going to be
A leader?
being a leader. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned, Greenback. My mom was a hardworking elementary school teacher, 39 years as a teacher, was a single mom. And Scouting for me was that collective father figure. All the leaders that volunteered, that really poured into me in a way that taught me those characteristics of Scouting, of citizenship, personal fitness, what it means to be develop your leadership skills. And then went through Scouting and did not earn my Eagle. It was one of a regret in my life. I came down with what many people do is called the fumes, gasoline fumes and perfumes, and you get a bit fumes.
Cars and females.
That's right. I mean, you get distracted with certain things in life, parts of your life. Yeah. And then, but I've always been connected with Scouting. In fact, my first job out of college was I was a service learning scholar, so I knew I was going to work in nonprofit management or something at some point. And it was with the Boy Scouts of America. I was the district executive and loved that job, and then later went into some other things. But then as we had kids, we said we knew we wanted to get involved. Ramsey was the first one to get into Scouts. She was a Girl Scout. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, she could sell those cookies. Well, I remember one time we were out in front of the Walmart Marketplace on 81.
Everybody does it.
And
got to get the good spots.
Yep.
That's it. Well, we brought out some of our musical instruments, and we would make music together. We taught them how to cast that line and say, "Hey, sir," and then reel them in. Say, "Come on," reel them in and just have some fun with it. And and being able to teach them that people want to support their efforts more so than maybe they want cookies, or even with Boy Scouts later, popcorn.
Right.
Popcorn is expensive.
Right.
And it's not, no one wants the popcorn. Now, people do want the cookies, even though the packages have gotten smaller and the price has gone up.
They're still good.
So goes life. So goes life. But saying, looking people in the eye and just saying, "Hey, would you like to help support me meet my goals?" And those goals to go to camp, to learn, they don't say salesmanship, but just learn how to talk to people. And people respect that. That whenever they were buying, at the time, I think they were $4. And so they'd say, "We'll get 4 boxes." And they'd say, "How about teaching them how to say, well, how about 5 for $20? That way I don't have to give you change."
Right.
Nobody ever gets disappointed with too many Girl Scout cookies.
No, absolutely.
It's always that time they wish they got more. And so this one time Ramsey was talking to some person, and they asked if they had keto-friendly cookies. And she had that look. So I just kind of chimed in, and I said, "No, they're not keto-friendly, but listen, they don't last long. They're free calories." And they got a good laugh out of that. And just showing her it's about connection. And, I think, anytime you run across young people that are trying to sell something for their school, Scouts, or whatever, the putting themselves out there and asking people to help support them is a great lesson. And it's more so than what they're purchasing, but what it's representing. And, that was my case for me that got me later into fundraising is I was the number one gift wrapping paper salesman in the elementary school, and Krispy Kreme donuts and all those sorts of things. But it's just about asking people to get involved, to help you, because people don't get involved if you don't ask them to do something. And so anyway, and also having fun with it. And then Ramsey was another thing, because Robbie, I think, appreciated this since he was a veteran and just passing Veterans Day. Thank you to all of our veterans for your service. But when someone would say, "Well, I can't have those cookies. I got the sugar, diabetes," and say, "Well, you know what? If there was a way that you could help our troops, you would want to know about it, wouldn't you?" "Well, sure I would." And then she would just simply ask, "Well, if you buy some cookies, we'll send them to the troops and let them know how much you appreciate. So do you want to do 5 boxes for $20? Wouldn't that be helpful to say thank you to our troops for serving?" And so just having fun with it and also watching their confidence grow was great.
That's right.
Back to the the Thin Mints.
Yeah.
You didn't mention that they actually bought, what, 3 boxes after you
They
made
did.
that comment about they may not be keto, but they don't last long.
That's right.
And then overhearing your daughter a little later on using the same method.
Oh, absolutely. Just take it and bridge it to turn it into something else.
Yes, that's what you
smart.
want.
That's
Yep,
right.
Yep. And speaking of the Scouts and all that, you do a lot of outdoor stuff with your kids, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. So, yeah, anytime we try to go anywhere, we try to be outside. I mean, in fact, this next week we're going to be in the Smoky Mountains, and our family's from that East Tennessee area, so we'll find a way to go hiking and spending time out. And that's, young people are not out enough, I don't think, anymore. I don't think anybody's out enough anymore, just to get outside and get grounded. And so one of our family goals is to go to all the national parks together. And we're up to 16 so far.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. And so we've been in Alaska, and we've been to Washington, and we've been down to this past spring break. We went to St. John National Park and down in the Caribbean. But with scouting, one of the things that really got me involved as an adult leader was just watching some of my friends. One of them in particular is a guy named Timothy Clardy. He's an attorney in Anderson. Some of y'all probably know his wife, Shelby. They run the Bleckley Inn. But seeing Timothy engage with his son Isaac's a couple years older than my son and my daughter, but watching him interact with those young people, he's an Eagle Scout, and watching how parents leaned on him as he encouraged, as he led, as he guided those scouts, I said, that's something that I want to be. And he was a couple years ahead of us, like I said, but, I got to be a den leader with him, and I still lean on him today whenever I have questions. And I think that's, programs like scouting, it's ran by volunteers, people that just genuinely want to get involved and make a difference. And he's one of my heroes, certainly in scouting. So if you're listening, Timothy, thank you for all you do for our young people and for me.
Where are some of the good places you go hiking in East Tennessee?
Well, there's a great hike called Rocky Top. Y'all may have heard Rocky Top. I can sing it for you if you'd like.
Oh, that's all right.
Rocky Top is a good one. It's an actual hike that you can do in the Smoky Mountains just outside of Cades Cove. Probably my all-time favorite hike is a place called Mount LeConte. There's a lodge, and it's one of the top 10 rated lodges by National Geographic magazine. This past May, my daughter and I got to go up and hike up and spend the night, and it's an off-the-grid lodge. So, we got oil lanterns. It's a full service, but it's rustic, and so Mount LeConte is another favorite hike that I do. And then our namesake, my daughter's name is Ramsey. There's a place called Ramsey Cascades in Greenbrier. So if you're ever coming over from I-40 from Asheville and you take that back road into Gatlinburg, that Greenbrier area, but that's where my family was from before the park came in. They got bought out by the park. And so that area has some family connections there. It's a pretty rugged trail with a great cascading waterfall. But anywhere in the Smoky Mountains is a whole lot. It's real fun, right?
Yeah, yeah, especially this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
I think the last time I went hiking up there was at Fall Creek Falls.
Yeah.
Went hiking there, and the waterfall was literally not even working.
Oh, yeah.
They had it shut off that day.
Oh, yeah.
It had been so dry that you could go all the way down underneath. There was no water coming down off of it. But when it does come, that is also fantastic to see.
Fall Creek Falls is more in Middle Tennessee.
Is it?
And I like educating people in South Carolina. The 3 stars on the Tennessee state flag represents what they call the 3 grand divisions: East, Middle, and West. And it has more to do with the topography of the state, because the East is that Appalachian Range, real sharp hills. Middle Tennessee, as you probably recall from being at Fall Creek Falls, there's hikes, but it's plateaus. It's a lot of sandstone. And then West Tennessee is that Mississippi Delta plains and large farms and other things. But there's a great place there too called the Big South Fork National Recreation Area. And it's one of the only rivers that runs north into Kentucky. That ends up going into Somerset, Kentucky. And there's some great hikes in there. And another one of the top 10 lodges is a place called Charrett Creek. And that's not Chariot, it's Charrett, Charit Creek. And that's a great place to go. And the best part about that is you have a choice. You can take a mile hike down to it or a 5-mile hike to get to it. So if you're on a fast track, you get there quick. If you want to take your time and stroll, then you can do the 5 miles. So unlike the Mount LeConte, which is way more strenuous from that standpoint.
Very cool.
That's cool. I always like to know a new place. I forgot where Fall Creek Falls was. I just remember being there, and thanks for straightening me out on that. There's the views there were just tremendous. All right, we're going to take a quick time out, and then Tim is going to educate us on the AnMed Foundation, what it does, what it's all about, how it works. That's coming up. You're listening to The Boone Show, My Pulse Radio. Welcome back to the Boone Show on My Pulse Radio. Our special guest tonight, Tim Self, the Executive Director of AnMed Foundation. And before we even get to that, what was your inspiration to get into such a field?
So going back to scouting, I was sitting in the parking lot of Maryville College one night and going to a lock-in, an all-night lock-in, Cub Scout lock-in when I was a kid. And there was a guy named Brian Linkus, was the district executive. And I was telling my mom how much I liked him. And she said, you ought to do that job one day. And I said, really? I don't think I can do that. She said, sure you do. You like to help people. And
talk.
And I didn't, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I didn't realize how profound that is, but when in reflection, realized that was probably that seed of, that do-gooder nonprofit work. And then when I went to school at Maryville College, I was what's called a Bonner Scholar, which is a service learning scholar, which required certain numbers of service hours each semester. They helped you with books and purchasing books and your tuition and some other different things. But that was really probably where it set forth that I was going to do this kind of work and devote to some kind of a nonprofit. Also, as Holly just said, like to talk. I mean, that's usually what people do. And working for the Boy Scouts, volunteers were the two things: volunteer and scout recruitment, membership, and raising money. And it turned out I was much better at raising money than I was at managing volunteers, because that can be tough. You got to be patient. We got to have volunteers, but also you got to know what lane to be in.
That's right.
And whenever I had the opportunity to go into some other fundraising opportunities, I've worked for the Kidney Foundation, National Kidney Foundation, worked for United Methodist Children's Home up in Greenville, Tennessee, that served the Holston Conference, and then had the opportunity to apply for a job at the University of Tennessee Medical Center. And when I got to healthcare, that's when I was like, okay, I have landed where I need to be, because any community that you live in, those greatest healthcare needs are never going to go away, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be someone vulnerable. There's always going to be someone in need, and sometimes it's us. So being able to be at that connection of needs and resources is an awesome place for someone that's in fundraising. And I think anyone in fundraising would tell you that when you can connect those things and when people are willing to share their resources to help others, that's a special place to observe.
I tell you, that makes me think of you coming through the pandemic. It must have been quite the challenge, both for raising money, but also for how to distribute and help people.
Yeah. So I think that the healthcare at COVID was a rallying call for people to better understand how our health systems are not so much a just in case system. Everybody thinks it's just in case because whenever we were hearing about the possibility, what if I go to the emergency room and people can't see me? And, in the times when we have to be
real.
Yeah.
better stewards of our time, with everything, you hear Lean, Six Sigma, we have, from a just-in-case system to a just-in-time system.
Right.
That, when the hospitals will say there's no beds, there's usually a bed. I mean, in a room that's clean. It's that they don't have the people to serve, and they've got to have those ratios to make sure that it's a safe environment for you to be in. And, between... from fundraising, but also, this community really stepped up. Coming from a textile community, we said we need masks because of all the supply chain backup and issues. And there was a leadership meeting, and we're like, what are we going to do about masks? I mean, people can't reuse these surgical masks. And we said, let's see what we can do. And we went about doing a call out to the greater Anderson community. And all these old textile workers were able to pull out some of their old sewing machines. And, we've got 4,500 employees now, 3,500 or so then. But we were able to accumulate 12,000 handmade masks during that.
Isn't that incredible?
And the idea is that every healthcare worker got two. You got one to wear, and then the other one you washed in between, and that way you had a fresh mask, and then some extras if we needed to be. But then there were communities that were able to step up and give resources like those masks. And ACTC was one of the first partnerships that said, hey, we've got some things in our health sciences building. Can this help? Other health independent physicians, dentist office, and others says, hey, maybe these N95 masks that we have here, I think you guys might need them more than we do. Here's a couple of gallons of bleach because we don't know what you're going to need to do to sanitize and clean. So it became a rallying cry in many ways. And even from the fundraising standpoint, many corporate partners and businesses said, man, without health care, we're all going to be in a bind. And what can we do to contribute? And I think that has carried forward even since 2020 for us anyway, and build some good relationships and partnerships.
Oh, I know for sure. We had so many issues during that time. I mean, everybody did, right? We learned so much. So it was a horrible time for our society in general for health reasons. But to me, we got together so much. We talked so much more. We communicated about what people need, and we pitched in together and did it. I mean, John, you remember the show? That's where this came from.
Yeah.
COVID is what brought us here together, where we're sitting right now, where we've been doing this for 6 seasons. But we met so many people when we were doing our show, and how many people, we all came together and we all did the support.
Yep.
It was incredible. So yes, it was a pandemic. Yes, it was a horrible time in people's lives. But I go back to my life and our lives here at ACTC and how much more strong we got during that time as a community.
Oh yeah, I think that we're all individuals, and we demand our individuality, correct? But there was such a collectiveness that we all were able to be a part of, not just witness, but to be a part of in that moment. I remember someone saying, I don't know if it's a podcast or somewhere, that we're going to look back, and even though it's scary and none of us want to do it again, there's going to be some really good time. And the other day, the nice thing about Time Hop and using our phones and pictures is there was a picture that popped up just the other day with my children, and it was a chalkboard, and it said, today is November the 14th. Your teacher today, Mr. Self, a.k.a. Daddy.
Right.
Motto for the day, you're going to learn today. And there's a picture of my kids, they didn't think it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. I'm still laughing today. But even though it was a struggle, the time that we got to spend with family in those close quarters, we're not going to get back. I mean, that was really special. And granted, there were people that lost people, which is so sad.
Right.
But there was some togetherness now that I think some of us still yearn for of that.
Yeah. So tell us what exactly now, for anybody that's wondering, what the AnMed Foundation does.
Yeah. So we're what's called a Soul Support Foundation. Our job is to fill gaps in needs for AnMed as they seek to address the greatest healthcare needs of our community. That's not any different than any other healthcare foundation. Their job is to find out whatever it is that operations budgets many times can't fit into, what is it that we can do to help with that, to bring those. Pulling in the parking lot today, I was having a conversation with our emergency department people. We had a donor call and said, hey, we'd like to do something before the end of the year. And, with the recent DOGE and a lot of the cuts of federal governments and grants, there's an organization in town called First Light, and they help with things related to any type of a trauma that's a sexual assault or other things. But they just
specifically children.
And children and children, but they also do adults. And they're there to walk with as advocates, but also to help educate and get resources. Well, those resources are going away. And there's a particular certification called SANE, Sexual Assault Nursing Examiner. And now nurses are able to do exams, but that type of certification, when they go to court, that's what separates their evidence collection versus those that can be thrown out because of just they didn't have the certification to do that. It's $2,500 between their test, between their education portion, and then they have to do some clinical roundings that's specific to that work that they can't put a part of. Then they got another 300 hours, and we need 10 of those. We've got 3 that work very diligently and take their job very serious. But we need 10 of those, so that way at any point on a shift, if someone presents, not if, but when someone presents, we've got the resources to meet. And while the hospital we've got those 3, there's possibility of that donor that can say, hey, for those 10 that here's $25,000, so that way we can remove the barrier so that need can be met. I'm not a healthcare worker. But you know what? I can fund those so they can get the resources they need so that if my neighbor or my family or I need that's there. So discovering where those needs are. Sometimes we call it the excellence gap in my business. That excellence gap is that margin is so little that only way that gets fulfilled is by people collectively caring enough to give their resources so that we can accomplish things together that we otherwise would not.
Well, you shared before the show 5 points of how it all works with raising the money. First off, the philosophy of philanthropy.
Yeah. So philanthropy, number one, the term philanthropy, people think it's just a term that represents the Carnegies of 100 years ago, the Duke Foundation, different things that people. But really, what philanthropy, the word means, is for the love of mankind. So there's many ways we're philanthropists. We can give our time to serve. That's part of being a philanthropist. Many times we say it's dollars, and certainly that is the point. Now, that is what I'm professionally trained to do, is to, John, to separate you from your money to meet the greatest needs of our healthcare.
Right.
And there was a way if there was a way that you could help people, you would want to know about it, right?
Sure.
See, I got you. I'm reeling you in.
Yep.
Right, reeling you in. But the philosophy of philanthropy, really goes back to that Puritan tradition that the United States was founded. Somewhere there's a little even guilt in that. That reciprocity. When somebody does something good for me, I want to do something to give back. And in that moment of gratitude, that is where some beautiful philanthropy does. Is that why am I writing this $1,000 check to this organization mission? I should be conserving this for me. And then releasing that to say, I hope that this does good. Mm-hmm. And many times we don't know that impact that someone is going to be able to have. I was impacted in college by the Bonner Foundation, and there was a family that had resources that made that available to many universities and colleges around the country because they saw that we needed more service people. I've never met the Bonners, but they impacted me, and I know that there's other people that they've impacted. So when we look at that philosophy and we think about what that philosophy is, it's really, how do I do as much good with the resources that I have to help as many people as I can?
Mm-hmm. Second point, what motivates donors?
Gratitude is one of the best places that motivates donors. And I tell some people at the medical center, there's 3 kinds of philanthropy. If I were to put it in, I think the one that we're most familiar with is what I call transactional philanthropy. I buy a ticket, I attend an event, I have a great time, and by the way, we're helping meet the need with whatever that margin might be. Right. I need to coin this term. It's called philanthrotainment. Many times it's philanthrotainment, and it's a way to get people in the door. Mm-hmm. But many times people can walk out and not even realize what the impact was there for.
That's right.
Right. And so, or, the transaction of, you interact with somebody selling Girl Scout cookies or Boy Scout popcorn.
Or a raffle ticket for our small building.
There you go.
Yes, that's it. I mean, so so there can be some almost an exchange, right?
Right.
Then what I talk about in that moment of gratitude is transformational philanthropy, and the transformation happens in two ways. The first part is that because I gave, something transformed to be better, and a need was met that was not there before. The other part of that transformation is when you look in the mirror, that I'm proud of what it is that I was able to do. And guess what happens? That moment fades. And John, do you know how you get it back?
How do I
Donate
get it
some
You
back?
more.
got to give it
Gotta
again.
give some more.
That's right.
I want that feeling
That's right.
back.
You got to give it back. And then the third, which can blend into all this, is relational. We trust people. Relationships make things happen. Holly and I got to spend a year together in a program called Leadership South Carolina. We traveled across the state. We learned a lot about different industries, needs of our great state. And one of the things that we got to talk about was the needs of the health sciences program here at ACTC. And we got to talking about, what were some of the barriers to our students making that education to career transition. One thing
Specifically, patient care technician for the AnMed hospital.
Right.
They needed it.
Well, they needed it, but what were your barriers?
Right. We had money barriers.
Right, but students couldn't come to that. Right, there was
Well-
somewhere there was some rule that you had to be 18 years old.
Well, yes,
And-
that too.
And usually even 21. It was very difficult. And I
Right.
think institutions put up these barriers that at the time it
Right.
made sense. Well, now, across particularly rural America, we've got a shortage of healthcare workers at all levels.
Right.
And we want to retain our talent in our towns, period. So, particularly in Anderson school districts 1 and 2, they've got an option. They can go north and they can go to Greenville, and there's 2 health systems there, but we want to keep them here. Mm-hmm. And so one, you said, hey, how can our students get in? Relationally, guess what? It turned out I was good friends with a guy named Dr. Stoney Abercrombie, who's the dean of our medical education program with MUSC. And I said, are you willing to have a conversation? Sure. And that's all that it took. And that
Yep.
barrier fell, and students happened. The other
That's
thing we
right.
realized at that moment, our chief nurse, Shonda Trotter, is a graduate of this program from 1997.
Yep.
And then the second thing is we needed to update the education space. And your students were learning on beds and equipment that was 20, 30 years old. And I'll tell you, if you get health equipment now, it's already out of date. That's how much technology is changing, right?
That's right.
And so we went about trying to figure out how could we partner with some of our vendors so that way the students are learning on equipment today so that when they make that transition, they're not having to learn new equipment. It's very familiar. And also, we got you some what?
Some money to renovate a facility. So we actually have in our health science lab, we actually have a room that looks exactly like an AnMed hospital room.
Right.
It is dimension-wise. Everything when you walk in, it looks exactly like when you go into the
bathroom and
hospital.
everything.
Well, the bathroom's a little bigger because we
okay.
got to get 20 students in there
Oh.
to be able to shower somebody.
Right.
So it is a larger bathroom. But other than the bathroom, the
Yeah.
room itself is exactly
amazing.
everything on the back of the wall, to the oxygen, to the machines that we use. Everything is exactly like when the students go and work for AnMed.
Right. And so we talk about collaboration. Think about
That's
this.
important.
Philanthropy helped connect a need for students
Yep.
to be able to have just-in-time education. We want to keep our great talent here in our community. AnMed needs great talent, so we've already got an inventory if we can remove those barriers. Then we need to update facilities. AnMed passed through the money, but it was not AnMed money that invested this.
Right.
We had a donor that was interested in AnMed and said, Tim, what is your need? We need technicians. Well, what does it need? We need $50,000 in order to invest to help them update this, and our engineering department is going to advise these students
Yep.
that will learn how to build it. And so there were so many unique components of collaboration, but also gifting to make this community better, ultimately to meet the greatest needs of our community.
And now our students leave us with the CNA certification, which is the Certified Nursing Assistant, the PCT certification, which is the Patient Care Technician, and they do their clinical hours at AnMed, all because of this relationship of being able to get together and figure out how we can fix the problem for all of us.
Right.
So it was a full circle.
Yep. Something I'm very proud of.
Yes.
And that's just one example.
That's just
That's
one
just-
You're
example.
doing that all the time.
That's
That's your job.
Right.
You did skip ahead, though. You did answer the transactional versus transformational.
That's a nice blend.
That was. The one negative part you had in here is how confidence can be lost. So putting it in a positive way, how can it not be lost?
Yeah. Thank you, or the lack thereof. So while
Gratitude.
gratitude is, the key to engaging and inviting people to participate and get involved with you, the lack of gratitude or the disingenuousness of a possible gratitude. Whenever you get that letter from an organization that says your gift has helped us do this, you are so important to us. And then whenever all of a sudden maybe you don't give that year, whether maybe they did something you didn't like, or maybe you forgot, and you realize, well, was I really that important? Nobody called me to ask me. And there was a situation where I was a donor to an organization. There were some things that adjusted, and I say, looking back, it was pretty petty. I got my feelings hurt. I'm a sensitive guy, John. I told you earlier, I'm a crybaby. I'm gonna cry whenever Creed crosses over as an AOL student. But something happened, and I don't know what it was. But I decided, hey, I'm not gonna give this year, and I didn't get that letter. But this went on about 2 or 3 years, and in reflection, it hurt me more that I wasn't supporting something that was important to me than it was that I kind of got my feelings hurt by somebody who I didn't have that great a relationship with. And I was meeting with a donor for the Methodist Children's Home that was also a trustee of this organization. And I loved the fact that he did this. In our conversation, he said, Tim, I noticed that before you were involved with us, but I don't see you in our donor role anymore. Have you not given this year, or is there something I should know about? And I expressed it to him. And he said, Tim, I'm sorry that happened. I hope that you would consider supporting us because the work we do matters. And he invited me back. And so gratitude comes in different ways, but also the other thing is oftentimes we avoid conflict. It's something that could make us uncomfortable, and I think that's an opportunity. That's not something to shy away from. And we may not get another donor back, but at least we can salvage a relationship that can open doors maybe later by just owning whatever it was that happened, even though we weren't a part of it. A key statement I made: if I was in your shoes, I would probably feel exactly the same way. I'm sorry that happened to you, and I hope that, one, it'll never happen again, but two, you sharing it with me will give me the opportunity to try to prevent somebody else from experiencing that. And people are generally, receptive to that, but it's got to be genuine. And I think that when you invite people to get back involved and you do it in a meaningful way, then they're appreciative of that. In fact, I think it's even stronger if that's the case. If they lose their confidence in you, you can gain them to come back.
And the last point you had on there was volunteerism, which you've kind of little bit referred to so far, but tell us more about that.
Sure. When we talk about engagement, that's volunteerism. Even sometimes when we're paid in our jobs, what is it that causes us to go above and beyond? And that volunteerism doesn't just come from me from being a Tennessee volunteer. It comes from that standpoint of where do I want to spend my time? Because even though we raise resources, our time is our greatest resource. And that volunteer time with who we spend time with, that volunteerism with the organization. Recently, I've gotten involved the last 2 years at our church, First Presbyterian of Anderson. We do something called First at First. And Saturday, on first Sunday of each month, we have an open table. And it's really easy to say it's for the homeless because we're near the Salvation Army, we're near Hope Mission, and there's a lot of people that hang around in that area. But oftentimes it's families that are just struggling, and they just need a meal, and it gives them a break. And these are people that I otherwise would not, most of us would just pass and not pay any attention. But we learned that, therefore, but by the grace of God, things can change in our situations, and I can be in that situation. And sometimes it's just a matter of sitting down with somebody and talking with them about what their conditions are. Maybe I can't help, but just that acknowledgement is a sense of humanity and appreciation. This 2 weeks ago, whenever we did it this last time, we had more than a normal group, and I think a lot of it had to do with the government shutdown with the elimination of SNAP and WIC benefits. And there was somebody that I was talking to who was a retired employee of AnMed, and and he was saying that he needed to do something because he wasn't going to get his benefits, and that led to a conversation back at the hospital that last week that we have something called the Employee Financial Assistance Fund. Every donor or every employee of AnMed is eligible for up to a $1,000 grant due to a financial crisis, due to no fault of their own. And there's mitigating factors that we have on a matrix to test that, and they've got to verify it in many ways.
Sure.
But SNAP and WIC benefits ending because of government shutdown is certainly not anyone's fault. We said, what can we do to relax these requirements? Because you normally got to be there for a year, you've got to be in good standing and some other things. And with our executive team, we made a recommendation to our trustees, and we relaxed those rules that anybody working at AnMed, full-time, part-time, PRN, even on FMLA, contract workers, if your SNAP or WIC benefits were interrupted, we were going to match you dollar for dollar. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know what kind of expectation, what kind of return, what kind of request we were going to have. With 4,500 employees, we're anticipating about at least 100 is what kind of our estimation was going to be, and we were expecting probably about $900 per person. And we decided that we were going to do 50% at a time, so at the first of the month, and then wait to see what happened, and then do the other 50%. But the average SNAP benefit was $400.
Oh my goodness.
And to meet somebody, and it wasn't just your frontline workers in the cafeteria or in the environmental services. I mean, that was remarkable to me of how many people. But they would reveal themselves, we would get it approved, and our accounting team was able to cut a check that day. We could get them approved and get a check that day. We would go pick it up. We would text them. We would go on that floor or meet them in the lobby and very quietly give them that check. And to see a single mother, you put a $200 check.
Oh, that's huge.
I mean, I can blow $200 really quick.
Yes.
Right? Take that for granted. But you put that $200 check in someone's hand and they go,
groceries.
And they can feed their kids.
Mm-hmm.
They can feed their kids. And to me, that's just dignity.
Yeah.
And, the government opened back up, and we're not collecting those dollars. We're not verifying those dollars. Somebody said, what if they don't do what they were supposed to do? Hey, they'll answer for that at the pearly gates one day.
Absolutely.
That's an issue, right? Our job is to give. But all those dollars were given by our employees. And we have such a great culture of our employees that give. I mean, healthcare workers in general got to care about people. We have 66% of our employees that give to the AnMed Foundation across about 54 funds that are specialized service lines and employee assistance, whatever their interest is, where their impact is. The average giving of healthcare philanthropy employees is 24%.
Oh my God.
And I'm not saying that we're not bragging. I think it's part of the culture that we live in, this great area that people want to give. But the number one reason why someone gives to anything or volunteers is because they're invited. And I think that's where that key of that philosophy is, that how do you gain confidence? But it's the invitation. Would you like to get involved? How could you make a difference? And do something meaningful. Mm-hmm. And meaningful means different things to different people. And to be able to be at that crux of being able to represent them was really going to be, when I look back, I know that was a watershed moment that's going to be a highlight of my career of what we were able to do. Yeah. All in said, we helped 35 people, 2 people with WIC, and our full distribution was $11,000. Wow.
How cool
The dollar amount was not that much, but the impact. There were people at other health systems that we were getting feedback from. I heard what you all are doing, and that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's just people taking care of people.
That's right. Very cool.
If people want to know more about the AnMed Foundation, how can they do that?
Well, you can go to AnMed.org, and top right corner of the website, you can see a button that says Give Now. You can learn different things. One of our main events that we have annually is called the Camellia Ball, and you can go to camelliaball.com. It's an annual gala event that showcases different strategic priorities. This year, in 2025, we focused on expansion of our pediatrics and children's services. Just those pediatricians just go see the doctor. AnMed, we've hired 2 new neonatologists, and so we have a NICU now at AnMed that we did not have that. Our donors are helping fund that. This next year, we're going to be focusing on oncology and expansion of cancer services. And so if people want to get involved from that standpoint. But when you go to AnMed.org and you go to the AnMed Foundation section, you can learn a lot about it. Or, hey, listen, you can just call Tim Self at 864-245-7008.
All right, we're going to have some more with Tim coming up. Believe it or not, we're already 3/4 of the way through our hour. That's flying by. But we're going to talk about a few things in the news and get Tim's recommendations for entertainment and food that's coming up on The Boone Show, My Pulse Radio. All right, back on the Boone Show on My Pulse Radio with Tim Self, the executive director of the AnMed Foundation. A few things in the news this week that I wanted to share before we went and get kind of Tim's. Oh, got the wrong stack of papers. Here we go. Tim's ideas on some of these things, and obviously Holly, you can chime in, and Danica too. But just a few things. Scientists in Japan may have discovered a new way to stop Alzheimer's disease before it begins by dissolving the tiny early-stage protein clumps that eventually lead to brain damage. Alzheimer's is associated with the buildup of, I won't say the big long name, but it's protein fibers in the brain. And they think that if they can catch it when they're smaller, softer clusters, they can knock them out before they grow, and you could have maybe a cure for Alzheimer's. How about that?
That is very cool.
I mean, you talk about things that need to be funded. There you go. And then they say the same thing could be applied to Parkinson's, perhaps down the road. So it's preliminary, just starting it out. They haven't done any tests yet, not in animals or humans or anything. So they're just going to check it out and see if that can be something. Good to hear that, because that's another thing. People are always donating to causes like Alzheimer's cures and all that. It's nice to know when news comes out that they're actually working towards it. Did you hear about this spaceship that's supposedly up in outer space? The stunning new image just yesterday of the interstellar comet 3I Atlas shows the object streaking past a distant galaxy and revealing its multiple tails. I've been following this a little myself.
Well, you like that stuff.
I do, and we haven't talked about anything in space for a while. But anyway, let's see. It's a comet, supposedly a comet. It's got different characteristics to it. It's got green glowing coma, hence comet, long ion tail, reappearance of a shorter anti-tail now, likely formed by dust, blah, blah, blah. All right. But this thing is 70 million light years away, not coming to us anytime soon, but it just keeps going. It's not burning out. It just keeps going and just kind of puts itself back together. Okay, after
like Holly
tails,
Hale.
after it
just keeps going.
Holly sometimes is well put together. Yes,
Sometimes.
You can tell every time she comes to the show, whether it's been a long day, a rough day, or whether she's just like cruising through it.
I think we're talking about a comet here, right?
You're like a comet soaring across the sky.
You're a ball of energy. You get things done.
You're a firework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
but
focus.
I mean,
focus.
I know since you guys haven't checked it out, then maybe it's not as interesting, but you should check it out.
Okay, we'll check it out,
It's
John.
an interstellar object, as they call it, speeding toward the sun at over 130,000 miles per hour, almost as fast as Holly drives.
Yep.
And maybe as old as 7 billion years older than the solar system itself. And the way it just keeps going and not dying, they think it's something more than just a comet.
Ooh.
That it's actually perhaps some sort of spacecraft.
Oh.
So keep an eye on that 3I Atlas. And finally, did a survey today just for you, Tim, because I want to do something health related for my sophomore class this morning. We always do some kind of discussion question to get things started. So I asked them, and you can comment on this, and Holly, you obviously see a lot of this with seeing all these kids all the time. Top teen health issues according to them. And number one, by far, what do you think it was?
Restate the question.
Okay, I asked them what they thought the top teen health issues are.
Ooh. I hate to say it, but suicide.
Believe it or not, that wasn't on the list.
Oh.
How about sleep?
But something that could lead
Stress?
to yeah, we'll get sleep was number 3.
Okay.
Sleep was number 3.
How about vape?
Vaping was number 2. You need to go on Family Feud.
Was it 6, 7?
There were a bunch that were after the top 3, like attention span stuff,
Okay.
yeah, ADHD, eating disorders, body dysmorphia,
Right.
self-esteem was in there.
Okay.
That could lead to further problems because of self-esteem, bullying, and everything that goes into number one. They said this themselves.
Emotional.
Mental health.
Mental
Mental
health.
health.
Yep.
Mental health, depression, anxiety.
Yes,
genetic
absolutely.
reasons for mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Almost half the class, one short of half the class, gave mental health as the number one health issue
Yeah.
with teenagers nowadays. And what are the health systems that you're familiar with doing about some of those things?
So, we had an expansion of our behavioral health center 4 years ago, and we had a expansion of our adult and then our geriatrics service. So, one, I think COVID did destigmatize to some degree, or maybe not destigmatize, but allow people the safe space to say, hey, I need help, and also for me to approach, are you okay?
Yep.
What can I do? And that demonstration. There's a growth of other mental health resources that are growing in our community. There's another center being built that's going to have a adolescent center in Powdersville, as a matter of fact. But ultimately, I think that regardless of whatever kind of facilities, because somebody going to a facility is not necessarily help. That's crisis intervention, right? It's how do we have some sort of a interaction, not even an intervention, but an interaction for people to have resources before it escalates.
Right,
to those.
before it gets to
Right.
that.
I know that the United Way of Anderson County has been doing what's called going to different agencies and teaching a course called Mental Health First Aid. So just like our scouts, we get first aid training and how to do bumps and bruises and scratches, but there's some community training now in mental health first aid about recognizing how do we acknowledge people, how do we get them help sometimes that we're not enabling, and I don't know where those balances are sometimes until too late. But I think that's some things but ultimately I think the biggest thing is people are more open to what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our students being aware that is an issue is huge. To be aware that, you know what, my friend right here, 50% might need it, and the friend next to me if I don't.
Right.
So them just being aware of it and being able to talk about it, I think
Right.
is huge. Because 10 years ago, would we have necessarily done that?
Oh, he said pull
not even,
yourself pull
Right.
it together, right? I mean, it's
Right.
Be that rocket that's putting itself together, just rejuvenate. But
Right.
but I think there's a lot of conversation as a scout leader, going through some training about young people. I think COVID had an effect on it,
Yeah, I was
about
just
coping
gonna say,
skills, just some coping skills.
Coping skills,
How do we
yeah.
how do we develop some mental resilience?
Yep.
And also perspective, helping build some perspective on what are we worried about. This past week, we did something at our church youth group. It was a conversation on stress and what are some ways that can help us not just cope, but also to manage that before it becomes distress. And agreeing, all stress is not bad, right?
Right.
Stress is what tells me to get up and get out of the building if the fire alarm comes on.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But stress causes us to get to work on that project or study for that test that we're saying, but that it doesn't come all consuming, right?
Right.
And that it's okay to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't like talking about it because they don't know who to talk to. Like, I have a lot of people that come to me about their issues and stuff, but whenever somebody else, they'll come to me about their issues, and then they'll try to go to somebody else about it, and they won't listen to them, but they'll tell them their problems. Like, they just don't know who to go to.
Right.
Awareness. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. My 13-year-old reminds me often, Daddy, I don't need you to do it for me. I need you to let me learn for myself. So where's that balance, you would think, with your peers of having someone that you can trust to share with, and that line of, hey, I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to tell me what to do. What would you say to that?
I don't know.
You don't know? But is that true with what my 13-year-old says?
Yeah.
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 I
And
agree.
that's her answer is why we got to talk more, make our own selves available, and they need to talk to their own people. Like you said, Holly, the same row of kids might have two people struggling with it on average. That's
right.
That's the 50%. So, and I think it has become a lot bigger since COVID.
Yeah. So you got education, you've got awareness, and you got to have some type of way that a comfortableness from a student to say, I need it, or I've got issues,
Right.
or whatever.
be able to
However
admit
you,
that, yeah.
right, to admit it.
Hey, we're dealing with it in healthcare. I mean, doctors. I mean, they're calling.
yeah, I'm sure
they're
they're in the
calling
same
it. COVID
situation.
PTSD. Nurses. They're having COVID PTSD, and that because that we demonstrated what we were able to do to rise to that occasion, and that level of service has not changed, and they have a tendency to internalize.
Yeah.
All of us do internalize, but eventually it's like a soda can. If you shake it up long enough, guess what's going to happen?
Yep.
It's going to pop.
That's
It's
right.
going to pop.
That's right.
Yeah. I refer back, and the last time we had a medical conversation, I referred to The Pit on TV. Have you watched that, Tim?
Well, I have not.
That's
I'm familiar with it, but I've not watched it.
they address a lot of PTSD among doctors and such on that program. So, all right, before we wrap things up, we always get the guest recommendations. Gotta get Holly. She doesn't produce stuff. Danica does. You need to produce like some music or something. The guest recommendations. Dun, 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 dun. All right, because this is where selfishly I get a lot of
Selfish. It's very
ideas
selfish.
of things to watch and things to eat, places to go. So 2 areas, Tim. First one, entertainment. Do you have something you can recommend to our listeners that they can binge, a movie they can go to or watch on TV, whatever, a book to read, anything entertainment related?
So there's a new series on Netflix about James Garfield, and it's
Yes.
talking
It's the
about
lightning,
that
something,
lightning doesn't strike.
something with lightning.
Right.
I know. I saw it pop up this morning, actually.
It's only 4 or 5 episodes.
Yep.
And
It's
yes,
good.
I binged it. So I
It's
watched
good.
it. I
You're
binged
done.
it.
Okay.
Well, I would say that it's very enlightening because they
Okay.
called he and James Garfield and I can't even recall the next president, but they were called the Forgotten Presidents.
Okay.
But it's a good story.
Good.
And
Okay.
that's brand new, easy to find
Yeah.
on Netflix.
Netflix.
All right. And what about a restaurant, place to eat, specific dish, whatever?
You know, our family loves sushi. And Maki is killing it in Anderson. In fact, they're going to open up. They're expanding.
Oh.
In fact, I think today at lunch they opened up like their new 2 buildings over. They've expanded, and so my favorite roll is the Electric City roll with fresh sliced jalapenos on it.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, not chunked, thin sliced jalapenos. And also, my friend Timothy Clardy, that I referred to earlier, says they've got the best dessert in downtown. Now, I don't think it's the best, but I'll call it the most unique.
What is the dessert?
It's a fried cheesecake.
Oh.
That's got
And it
That
is,
sounds fantastic.
it's one of those you can only eat like once every 2 years, but it's pretty good.
That's good.
It's real good.
So what's in your roll that you like, the Electric City roll?
So it has tuna, so it's sashimi tuna. It has some, I don't know what's in it, it's just good.
I don't know. It just tastes good.
I think
It's good.
there's
Whatever.
certainly some avocado in it. There's some
Okay.
avocado that's in it. I think there's some shrimp, but
Okay.
it's just good.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like I just looked it up while you were talking about sushi. Death by Lightning, the life, assassination, and aftermath of U.S. President James A. Garfield.
There we go.
All right. And let's see. Okay. It didn't say who the other president was, but it says that his assassin, Charles Guiteau, and Garfield, the 2 main stars that in that movie play those characters.
Yeah. Mental
So-
health. Mental health. We can talk about
Yes.
mental health because it was an issue of mental health with somebody.
Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah, no doubt. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
So we're heading to Tennessee.
Going home.
Going
Yep.
hiking?
It's funny you say home. A couple of years ago, I told you about breakfast with my mom at the Greenback Diner. She has breakfast with one of her old teacher friends, and she said, Timothy, when are you moving home? They call me Timothy back in town. When are you moving back home? And my mother cut me off, and she says, he is home. This is home now. I mean, Anderson has been good to us. Our children really do not have any awareness. They were born in Tennessee. But this is home now. So we're going back to Tennessee to visit family. Both going to see my in-laws, and then we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go to Middle Tennessee, not far from Fall Creek Falls, to a town called Hillsboro.
Okay.
And some friends of ours have a farm, an old farm, Century Farm, and they get together. And so we're going to do some clay shooting, some football watching, riding on a mule. Now that's one of those motorized mule, not an actual mule. Yeah, but but we're just going to be out. We're going to be outside. It's going to be great weather. It looks like this next
Good.
week. So,
Yeah, amazing weather.
right, and just hopefully we'll be where there's no cell phone service, so that way we
Yeah.
can put, otherwise we just put our phones down so we can be together.
That's
right.
awesome. That sounds just about perfect. Before I ask the other two what they're doing, one other question. You mentioned your one child, Ramsey, was named after a place, right?
It's close. My grandfather's name was Creed Ramsey.
Oh, so that's both kids
So they
right
both
there.
they both carry the name. That's correct, and that was my mother's father.
Okay.
And I've got a cousin who's in the Air Force stationed in Charleston, whose name is Creed Ramsey, and so he was a pretty cool guy.
Oh, okay.
Real
And
special
what was
to
the
me.
place that you mentioned that was Ramsey? Had Ramsey?
Ramsey Cascades.
That's
It's in
right.
the Greenbrier
Yes.
area, on the kind of behind the Gatlinburg area, Cosby area of the Great Smoky Mountain National
Sounds like
Park.
a good place to go.
It is.
I was afraid you would name Creed after the band.
Ah, sometimes I get Apollo Creed, from Rocky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a character,
Hold
on
me now.
Office. On The Office, his name was
Yes,
Creed.
his name's
and his name is Creed.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it wasn't just his
Yes.
stage name. His name is Creed. So
Well, they're cool names.
Yeah.
And I always like to hear how people get their names.
Yeah.
I'm just named John, so it's pretty cool.
I got you.
People don't ask me, where'd you get your name? Well, there was only 3 billion other people named
Oh, yeah.
that back in my day. But
and they carry both of their other grandparents' middle names. So Ramsey has a good Southern double middle name, Ramsey May Susanna Self.
wow.
And Creed is Creed Murphy Self, which is her dad's father, and both of them were World War II veterans. One was in the Pacific, so Robert Murphy was in the Pacific. Her other grandfather, Ernest Blaine, who we've got a nephew who's named after him, was in Europe, and then the two grandmothers on her side. So
Wow.
Very
Very
cool.
honorable
Very cool.
names. Yeah. Holly, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Like we do every year, everybody's coming to the house.
Yeah.
Our oldest is coming from Alabama with our new grandbaby, so we'll be able to see him. And of course, Eliana's coming too. She's turning 5 next week, so we'll be able to see both of them.
Aw.
So
Saw that picture of you with that.
Oh,
It's
my gosh.
It's different seeing you as a grandmother.
it's
now.
so different. It's so awesome.
how do your kids treat you? Because I tell my kids all the time that I'm going to be a much more fun papa
Oh.
than I am as a parent.
I am Eliana's best friend. In fact,
Oh,
I
yeah.
got a text this morning from Carrie that said Eliana was making you a picture because she wanted to make her best friend a picture. I am her BFF.
What does she call you?
Lolly.
Lolly.
Lolly. Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
And I guess once the first grandchild calls you whatever you're going to call you,
That's
what I'll be.
That's
So
yep, for all of them.
yes.
Yep. What are you doing, Danica?
I don't know. I think we're going to my grandma's
Where's she live?
in Greenwood.
Oh, okay. So not far away.
What you doing, John?
I'm going to Ohio to see my mom.
Oh.
Yeah, recently she had 2 different heart attacks. One was more serious than the other, and but she's fought her way back, and so I haven't seen her in a couple of years. So I'm going to go up there and see
Well,
her.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. Tim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We will have time now that we've gotten to know you and everything we do. Next time you come on, we're just going to have a blast.
Hey, listen.
And you're going to tell some stories about Holly because I know you have.
I
a
have
whole
stories
bunch of
about
them.
Tim.
And I'll just let you two.
That
go
could be its
at
own
it.
show, I believe.
We'll get this.
If we promote that, listen, the viewership, I bet it's going to go through the
Okay.
roof.
All right. We'll do it. We'll get out the giant boxing gloves and everything. But our thanks to Tim Self from the AnMed Foundation, the executive director there. And, of course, as always, Holly and Danica couldn't have Zach because of our phone issues. But
They should
sure
be
he's
back
listening.
into work
Yep.
after the holidays.
Excellent. The holidays.
Holidays. That's right.
The holidays. Our next live show in a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving. So we'll talk to you then. Catch the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Tough word, that Apple. Or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening to The Boone Show. You know how they say, like, subscribe, share, help the show grow.